everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our idea shots. I hope you're already addicted to our Thursday noonish in Central European time or evening in Hong Kong type of conversation. So we have today Ilya Belikin with us. I had a privilege and the pleasure to meet Ilya in Hong Kong in 2019, somewhere in May, I guess it was. And Ilya is a designer, a person who works at the intersection between design and technology, basically. And he has a long experience in the domain. He was hesitant about the number of years, 20 of experience. And he's the founder and animator and the brain behind the network called POSIT. POSIT reunites professionals that are interested in the intersection between design and technology and from different walks of life. I had the honor and the privilege to be also invited for a talk, with a series of talks with him and his partner. So Ilya is joining us from Hong Kong. As usual, I'm in Frankfurt and Adina in Bucharest. And here we are talking about technology, design, empathy, machines, and the future, perhaps the future of work too, since we're kind of working or pretending to work. Okay, here we are. So I'm going to go straight into the subject. Because you made a comment in which you said, I'm tired of hearing people saying that machines are not capable of empathy. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think it's a very common narrative. I guess it goes from, you can hear it from everyone like Bill Gates and many others who I very much respect, keep talking about this idea, this machine learning, what kind of jobs will be left to people. And the common narrative is that everything regarding empathy, all these unique human traits. And I guess it's coming from this narrative of machine being unemotional, incapable for emotion, incapable to understand emotions. What is funny about it is that a machine is by definition what we create as humans, and what we put in some machine is what we get in back. User experience design, and a field which I'm specialized in, is all about making your interactions with machine feel a lot more human. So what we basically do, and we're doing this very crude today, we're trying to program machines for empathy. And I clearly see a path when beneficial AI, the main feature of beneficial AI will be empathy. And then when I look at back in humanity and I think about, hey, we pretend that empathy is our key feature, like we are empathetic kind. But surely if we program machines to be empathetic, they will be better than humans. They will be, more consistent. They will be better listeners. They will be better caregivers. They will have this incredible observance. They will notice us. They will understand us, our emotions, better than humans do. They will have a lot more attention. So I see this future when not only creative fields, but also this very human field of empathy and caregiving definitely going to be taken over by machines.
Adina, would you like to say something? Because I have a lot to say as an anthropologist about that, but yeah.
Very optimistic, at least for my future. I don't know how the future of the kids. But that's very interesting. I mean, it's not that I will contradict this because it's clearly that the technology is going to contradict me. But the idea is that we have done what is interesting is that I think that probably us, the adults, have a little bit of, resistance to this conclusion. But we've done a study with kids last year. And we were talking to them about their future. It was before the pandemic, nothing announced any crisis like this. And they had a very, very cold-blooded, like that, perception of their future, saying that their jobs are going to be all of them are going to choose from the same register of jobs, series of jobs like programming, and the difference in the structure of the society is going to be made by who's the most competent in programming those robots and programming technology. And this is going to be the stratification, the social stratification. And I'm telling you that we were talking with kids at 8 years old, so they were very small ones. And the ones that are not going to be the niche, that is not going to be into programming robots, is going to take care of the environment, of the climate, of the planet. So these are not the technical ones, like 20% of the population. So I was really surprised to see that this perception really went very deep, and they were convinced that this is actually the future, their future, and embraced it with a lot of calmness. So it wasn't like I am. I'm very stressed. How can
I want to take a little bit out of your stress and I want to contradict Ilya on some points, not on all of them, but there's the question of I think there is a distinction to make here between mimicking empathy and being empathic. It's the famous experiment about incidentally it's about someone understanding or not Chinese but being able to respond in Chinese. And you know the experiment, I'm sure, because it's very well publicized in the AI circles. And it's about the person being behind the screen and the native speaker of Chinese, let's say, it's behind the other screen, doesn't see the person, sends only messages written, and the person behind the screen has a set of rules of how to answer. That person doesn't know the language, but following the set of rules of how to answer can answer and mimic knowing Chinese, and the person who does know Chinese on the other end cannot make the difference of knowing or not knowing Chinese. And that's perfect. If that's what you call empathy of machines, yeah, they will be able to do this perfectly, even better, as you said, better listening, not interrupting, as I just did, not, mimicking the right answers and giving the right answers, or even learning from the answers and enhancing that. Now, our exercise of thinking would be, if you are, and we will all be at 40 years from now, when I will be 120, and I will be all alone and being taken care of a robot. How would I feel? So I think the empathy goes both ways. Will the machine be empathic, and will we be able or willing or even bodily, biologically give positive response to the empathy that the machine will be able to give us? Because that's a big question, because no matter how much intellectually you can give back empathy, that level of hormones that comes from a human touch, it's for the moment not the same as the level of hormone that you positive enforcement that you will get from a robot talking to you in a certain type of voice. And I'm thinking healthcare, elderly care, etc., where those empathy things are really important. Also, leadership. Leadership is an interesting domain, and it's more and more clear in the leadership domains that empathy is very important in building teams, in kind of managing teams that are culturally diverse and culturally and socially diverse, and also with the diverse languages of empathy. Because empathy is not, again, it's not universal. There are many ways in which empathy is expressed, and it depends on cultures, it depends on age, it depends on so many things. And
Sure.
yeah, so So those are my, how do you say, my little bemols that I put on Ilya's presentation, or on Ilya's ideas. So yeah, in the future, there will be a lot of, hopefully, I hope that the machines will take a lot of things from me. You know, I hate to do a lot of things that, and I even think, oh, this could be so much easier done about a well-programmed machine. The question, I guess, is we are asking those questions because we are in a culture, global culture, that derives meaning of life from work. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is that we are not necessarily born to work. Why are we so obsessed with the fact that if we don't have work, we don't have meaning? Yeah. I would say, let the machines take over all the work and let us do the fun stuff. What do you think? That's my proposition.
Isn't the fun is to do work? For me, we're having fun right now, and it is part of my work, definitely, to share and create opportunities for others to learn and find ways to collaborate.
It's like work,
I think
for having fun, you know?
Yeah, would the machine do that? Would the machine be able to do what we're doing now?
I think absolutely, yeah. I generally believe that what you mentioned at the beginning when you said like interrupt, right? Or another example could be to make a joke. Would machine be able to make a joke which will crack you? And a friend of mine, a person I'm following quite a bit on this topic, Brian Romero, he's voice first expert, he called himself. He built something called Intelligence Amplifier, which is, you can see as a chatbot or voice chatbot, but it's a bit more advanced in a sense as this chatbot collecting a lot of data about his preferences in life. And in many ways appears to be similar to this vision of beneficial artificial intelligence. And the funniest thing is that he is publishing the moments of when I forgot his name, Bertrand or something like that. I forgot how he called him, making jokes. And these jokes are unprepared in a moment based on whatever conversations they're having. And he generally cracked by these jokes. He's laughing and he was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect you to make this one. And similarly to other things, like I think there's a few aspects of what we kind of the narrative we put into machinery, right? We're saying like, oh, you're going to be predictable. Oh, you're not going to contradict me. Oh, you're going to be this ideal caretaker, which will never step aside and express any personality. I don't think none of this is necessary. I think machines could, if you like, fake authenticity quite a bit because we human likes authenticity. But it's just yet another level of our preference. We prefer someone else with authenticity. And back to what you're saying, I do think this narrative of, oh, machines will never take over empathy-based fields of work. I think it's almost like refugee. Imaginary refuge for people, right? We will go like everything else will be automated, and we will go and we will take care about each other and other. This will be our job. I think it's really deep into things this way. I think it's very important to see that there's still in every field. I'm sure there's going to be some work to do for human beings, but it's not necessarily going to be this empathy work. It's might be something else. It might be that quality of our presence or quality of our intelligence is, and I believe that's firmly different from quality of presence and quality of intelligence of machine. So there's always something for us to add to this equation. It's not necessarily empathy. I don't think we're actually good at empathy. We're good at killing each other.
Yeah, you're right there.
You really think that machines will take the burden of being empathic from people?
A burden? You call that a burden? That's so funny, Adina. I'm just discovering you. and discovered as a cold-blooded sociopath.
Yeah. I remember I had once a discussion with employees in a company. Among the employees were also the managers. And while discussing with the manager, I was trying to get a little bit of information on empathy, because we were talking about leadership and saying, the employees of this company, they want you to be much more empathic and so on. And he was saying, oh, really? But are they empathic with me? So why empathy is only one way, from me to them?
Top down, not bottom up. That's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question.
It's like I really tend to agree with Ilya now that if robots can be better on something that we are not, and something that is putting a lot of pressure on us and so on, why not? I mean, why not programming them to be better at that? I remember I had a very short discussion before this meeting with a colleague of mine that attended the Brand Minds. It's a big event that happens here in the Central Eastern Europe. And Michio Kaku was invited. I don't know if I pronounced well his name. And he was saying the same thing, that the machines will do absolutely everything for us in the future, with 3 exceptions. One is manual work, like plumbers, taking the garbage and all this stuff, repairing stuff. The second thing would be psychology and coaching, like getting the mind out of the blockages. And the third thing would be the creativity part, is that we can teach the machines to do everything that we know how to do, or we know the theory. But you cannot teach the machines do the things that you don't know how to do, and you need others to help you.
That reminds me of the joke is like, you can take a horse to the water, but if you can convince him to swim on his back, then you did something. Anyway, I want to go back at what Ilya said about how narratives of the machines today somehow match the stories we take about migrants and refugees. Because I would like to remind our auditories that the term robot came from a Czech playwright, Karel Čapek, who wrote in the 20s and 30s. This theater play was an allegory, and robot means work. It comes from the root of the word robot is rabotna, which means working. It's in Russian and in other Slavic languages. And the allegory of the theater piece was exactly this, that the robots are somehow the working classes. And the question was, are they or not capable of love? So basically we have the same conversation 100 years after. But we do have the same conversation.
It's an obsession, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can we get rid of that? Love, empathy.
No, we can't. But what Ilya said, I think we need a reality check. We need to see the reverse side of the coin. The fact that we're capable of killing each other with not even a second thought. And how are we capable of doing that? Why? And what does it mean for the future of us as a species? And will we, and that's the danger, will we delegate that part also to the machines? And we already do it in so many ways, from drones, which are remotely guided, to all the new AI-powered weaponry, right? So, yeah. And there's a lot of theory in anthropology who talks about wars and the history of wars, and how the biggest change happened when we started being able to kill from a distance and from a bigger distance, and what does it mean, and why, for example, why the Mongolian Empire was such a success is because not only that they were very good at archery, but they were good at archery on the horse. Mm-hmm. Everyone was using the archer's while standing or sitting. So all of a sudden you have a population who use archery on the horse. So it's a technology, we call it technology. In anthropology, is the technology of the body, the technique of the body. You have this kind of combination of human and horse, which is like a centaurian in the Greek antique. Yeah, a human and horse with a bow, with an arrow and bow. That's inevitable. You cannot oppose that if you think when that appeared. Yeah, and so on and so forth. And now we are at the moment in which we embed artificial intelligence in weaponry. So those are the reverse of the metals. But when we talk about future, we need to think about those things too. And we think about where do we put our resources? Do we put our resources in creating a world that would be more accommodating for us and our needs? Or do we put our resources into kind of creating this type of new weaponry? I think a lot of it, you know, we always talk about either utopia or dystopia, but I think we are in both. We're kind of creating both constantly. A dreamtopia. I always talk about the dreamtopia, because dreams can be good or bad. They can be nightmares or they can be wonderful dreams, but we are in this kind of dreamtopia. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just throwing up idea shots at you.
What you mentioned about dystopia and utopia, I was thinking a lot about that. And the reason I personally decided to walk away from both is that I'm noticing this pattern that we have tendency to think in two polars, right? We say, okay, utopia. And when we discuss utopia, we're talking about floating city, everyone in white, and they are white somehow, all and very, very happy, and having dinners and drinking wine. And utopia is almost always kind of implies dystopia, right? It's the same story, just another side of it. So when we think about future, or even when we think about today in this like us against them, or global south against global north, there's something profoundly wrong about it. You can only take one side or another. And I think the real progress is in not taking these sides and in going above this conversation, right? Extracting yourself completely from this notion of being one or another. Tim mentioned this Australian musician and comedian had this song, In Defense of a Fence. This idea of a human being not being on one side or another, not on left, not on the right, but going a lot deeper, right? There's a lot of these examples when we take easy to take sides, we almost always actually harming our own cause. Like, for example, if you're environmentalist and you say, oh my God, plastic is so bad, I will go and buy this hipster bag, right? Something like this one, right? You buy a bag like this. The scientific data on this would be that to offset the CO2 of this bag, it will take thousands of plastic bags, right? So this one is as if you produce 1,000 of them. And then I need to use this one longer than my lifetime to offset this damage I done by using this. But it looks environmentalistic, right? It's branded environmentalistic. I'm a good person.
Should I say something about Tesla? Should I say something about? Yeah, all the well, we're beings of stories, right? We're beings of narrations. We tell stories to ourselves to remind us who we are and to make us who we will be. So but out of those stories, things come to life, and maybe one day the rate of usage of swag bag, like you just showed, it will offset 1,000 plastic bags. My worry is that at this moment people have those bags and take plastic bags, which I do, guilty as charged. Sometimes it happens to me to still take plastic bags. Yes, I do. I try to use them more than 20 minutes, which is the lifetime of a plastic bag. The average lifetime of a plastic bag is 20 minutes. But yeah, so we do not know what we're doing. We do not know what the consequences of our actions will be on the future. And that's what's interesting, is that we forgot the Greeks have two futures, two types of futures. The chronos, which is the future with which we work now, the time with which we work, the chronos, with the past, present, and future. There is another time, which is the perpetual present, that they used to have in their philosophy. And basically, they say that that's the only time in which we live. You do not have the past, it's gone. You do not have the future, we have no idea. The only thing we have is the present. So as I was saying, I think one of the things that's important is that the best gift that you can make for future is to give everything to the present. That's the only thing we have. Yeah. So I don't know if you using that bag would make it better or worse, but if you do it in good faith and believing it, we're talking already about karmic action, right? Because karma is not destiny.
I do think reality check is important. I do think a person who's
using
this
very
bag
important.
Thinking that it was sold to this person as environmental, this person need to do a homework and realize that it's not necessary, right?
Especially when we talk about Tesla, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that we cannot do more than we can do in the present.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. I also feel as though when we think about future, we're missing the point, because the future happens is not the way we think. The future happens the way we do things, right? So
that's karmic action. Thank you. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Now we're on the same page. I want to finish this one thought I was starting about dystopia, utopia. One word I found, and it's Monica Belinskite, and I think she brought it from somebody else, but I remember her as a reference. She pointed to this word called protopia, and protopia is positive prototype of a future. What I love about that is it's shareable because it's a prototype. It's something you can build, draw, or put together as a model and share, and it makes it a lot more actionable. So for me, what this was a big discovery of last year, big enough for me to put together a conference about that. Adina, what do you think?
I like listening to you guys. I'm thinking about this life of a plastic bag. To be honest with you, I was left with a 20 minutes. Still, I'm very much into the subject that we started with, and because now I see that we are heading towards a different direction, and because we have only 5 minutes left or even less, to leave our public with a conclusion on this issue with empathy and machines, and what's going to be our future tomorrow, if what we need to do today in order for us to create a better future. I would really challenge you to draw a conclusion about this debate about empathy. Will machines be able to deliver empathy, and are we going to leave the machines deal with the empathy while we are doing something else, like, for example, stop using plastic and use reusable and so on? What's the plan for us tomorrow, for today, in order to be prepared for tomorrow? This is one thing. And second thing is that if work would have been the purpose of life, what's the future of work? So I would really like us to go through these two questions and make short conclusions about our short debate, based on our short debate.
Yeah, I think these two questions are part of the same, right? For me, this is not theoretical. For me, it's something which is defined what I do today, right? As a plan for a future, we definitely need to have a much more sane narrative. We cannot separate ourselves from nature, as we discussed with Alec, and we cannot separate ourselves from what we create in machines. Machines are not something completely out of nature. Machines are continuation of nature through us, right? And machine presence and machine intelligence, we need to be with them. We cannot say, oh, let me take these jobs and give you these jobs. Let you be my slave for this and this and that, but I will be dominated in this and this fields. We could, as society, feeding ourselves, eating our own narrative, create this. We can say, oh, no, creative and designers, it's only true art if it's come from a human being, right? Or it's only true care and love if it's come from a human being. We could do that, but I think it will be not true, and it will be damaging to our society. I think the only way for me forward, what I see is that further integration between us and machines, further empowerment of individual, because the real troubles we are heading towards right now is not about humans versus machines. The real trouble is dominant intelligence, someone who owns intelligence and solves problems for other, kind of owning them, like basically every big corporation in the world, the biggest corporation in the world does today, Facebook, Google, you name it. They're trying to create this dominant intelligence. This is a business model. And another idea, and something I would like to support, is empowering individuals with technology. But this actually requires a level of consciousness and presence from an individual to see that we are already transformed to technology. We are ready. What we're doing right now, we present on a distance and we talk, and this is not human, but it is also very, very human, because the reason why we're doing it is very human, right? But we empowered and we augmented with technology. And I think seeking that and truly accepting that is very important for our future.
Yeah, I would like to echo what Ilya said and be very brief. The history of humanity, and I give the example with the archery and the horse. We always created tools, incorporated them, and became something else. We're not the same as we were 500 years ago, and we're not the same as we are 40 years ago when we didn't have those little mobile phones and the phone was hooked to a wall. We're different, and humanity transforms itself, and we, as any other organism on the planet, we adapt, we adopt, and we adapt. What's interesting about us, not that we are separated from nature, what's interesting about us is that we recreate at a bigger degree than other animals. We're also animals, but at a bigger degree than other animals, we recreate our environment. And we then, the biology does its works and adapt to the new environment we create. So no, we shouldn't be afraid of anything. The only thing that will happen is that we will transform along with our own creations. Yeah? What humanity is what we will tell ourselves it is after or during the integration of whatever we invent. Yeah.
Yeah, I will withdraw also my conclusion. It's gonna be very short. To me, the discussion was really a pleasure hearing you guys and discussing, debating on things. But to me, the most important learning is that, of course, we cannot oppose to this evolution of technology, and on the contrary, we welcome it and we embrace it as much as possible. Even the empathy in machines. And related to the question, what's left for the humans? I think that there are a lot of things left for the humans. And one thing would be, I like very much what you said, Ilya, about not treating machines as slaves or tools, and that would be very wrong. And I think that that's giving us a huge subject to work on, which is responsibility. Everything we do has a consequence. and the consequences can be whether positive or negative. And while we are treating responsibilities seriously as a subject to really work on for as long as possible, indefinitely, things are gonna work better for us, the machines, the nature, and everything that surrounds life in general. So that would be my conclusion.
Yeah. But that's interesting. Sorry, I have to say that, because of course, we're not going to treat machines as slaves, because we treat humans as slaves. Machines are tools. We need to treat them as tools. They are tools.
Yeah, but
when you say treat them as slaves, you anthropomorphize the machine, and I think that's another danger in which we can talk about it in another.
Yeah, but if the machine feels something, if the machine has feelings,
well, that's another conversation. We're talking about mimicking empathy. That's another thing. That's another huge different conversation.
Yeah. There is these feelings of the machines with responsibility. Okay?
What feelings?
Start talking about my friends. Yeah.
What feeling? No. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
Can machine mimic empathy? Yeah, we agree that they can. Do they have feelings? I don't know. Let's have another conversation.
Yes. Okay.
Because the danger is to anthropomorphize the machine.
Yeah.
That's another danger. It's a tool, man. It's a tool. I don't know what Ilya thinks about it, but I think
I love the conversation, and it's a good sign that we cannot stop, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a very deep topic, and it goes into the philosophy of things, right? Would machines be conscious, and when they will become conscious, if they will become conscious, how would we catch up with that? Would we realize that on the philosophical level, I strongly feel that it's not about intelligence. It is about presence, and presence is possible only if you're conscious, right? And the question for me, would there be a machine presence or not? And somehow intuitively, I believe yes.
Well, then, it depends who you believe in terms of the philosophy of consciousness. For example, is this neuroscientist guy, Tonioni, who has his idea of consciousness and how consciousness emerges is about the intensity, frequency, and density of connections between, let's say, neural-like networks. So if his theory is true, that means machines, yes, indeed, they can be conscious. But there are other theories of consciousness that say that assign consciousness to other characteristics that have to do with that plus something added, not necessarily only the intensity, density, and quality of connections between different elements. So it's still disputed.
Let's leave it for a next shot.
Anyway, the future is bright.
Yeah, right. You guys, I'm closing the. Bye.
Bye. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks, Ilya.